Hello, everyone, and welcome to Answer the Call. I have two guests that I'm really, really excited to talk to, and we're going to jump right into it. It's Croncy and Red. Oh my God, RedMonsterSC. I'm super tired and I'm like losing my mind. We're going to talk about mining. So massive mining changes to 3.19, and normally saying massive to a Star Citizen update is a meme that people use on YouTube to get lots of views. This is actually massive. Completely changed the whole game. And yeah, let's jump in and say hello to these guys right away. Welcome, Croncy. Welcome, Red Monster. Croncy, you're just to my right, I guess. Introduce yourself first. Who are you? What do you do with Star Citizen, and where can people find you? And why are you on the mining show, right? You two guys are the guys that I think are synonymous with mining. So why are you on the show we're talking about with mining?
You messaged me a couple days ago and you invited me. I think that's why. As far
True.
As I'm aware.
So is it because I think you're good at mining, or is it because it's something that you actually appreciate?
Yeah, I managed to convince you that I actually know what I'm talking about.
True.
So yeah, I'm Croncy. I do a lot of streaming and I do a little bit of YouTube stuff. I like doing lots of events. I really like multiplayer gameplay, which sort of leads me towards, things like the Mole, which is my favorite ship in the verse. Mm-hmm. Love industry in terms of Star Citizen and what could come from industry as well. And some of my favorite moments have come from mining. So it's something I'm really passionate about. I really enjoy doing it. Yeah.
Nice. And then Red Monster?
I'm a Star Citizen mining aficionado. Like driving into the group operations there. My group hosts a Sunday morning mining session. We pull up to like 20 people in a group. We've got miners, surveyors, security, running just a large group.
Awesome.
Group section there. And then I've got YouTube tutorials that go into way too much detail on the mining gameplay.
No such thing.
Yeah, you may have seen one or two of my cheat sheets out there.
Yes.
With some of the helpful information about mining and also getting into industrial, salvage. Big fan of industrial gameplay, and yeah,
nice. Yeah, I mean the cheat sheets and all those things are huge, and they were small in comparison to what they're likely going to be in this patch, right? There's just so much stuff to dive into and so many layers added on. Let's start out with it. What for you guys is, how would you define this update in like a couple of sentences? Go ahead, Croncy.
Necessary and appreciated.
Okay.
I guess. Well, those are words, not even two sentences, but that's about all I need.
Yeah.
It's stuff that we've been hoping to happen for a very long time, and as we discuss the changes, you'll really see that they've put a lot of work into how they dealt with recalculating density and instability and resistance and profitability and everything. They've really, really nailed down actually making it a bit more of an enjoyable and rewardable gameplay loop, rather than just, here is my Lancer with a surge, I'm going to go mine the same Quantanium deposit for the next 7 hours.
Exactly. Red?
Yeah, for me, number one, forget everything you knew about mining before.
Mm-hmm.
And they're finally breaking up the monoculture of Quantanium mining. I think up to this point, we've been, if you're going out to mine for profit, you've got one choice, and that's going to Lyria, looking for clusters, and mining Quantanium. And really, anytime you try and push into something else, you're just not going to see the same profits in the current gameplay. I think they have completely broken that up, and I'm excited about the changes. So
sure, I would say you spend significantly less time scanning and way more time mining now. That if I was going to take like a couple sentences, I would say everything culminates into that. Like for all the reasons that you say, right, that you guys have said, like better profits on other things. There's more clusters, they're bigger rocks, right? So you're just spending more time. Well, I don't know if we're spending more time mining. We might be spending more time setting up right now than we are mining. But yeah, how have your experiences been with some of that stuff? Go ahead, Red.
Part of that setup, I think, is just the learning curve of coming in, because all of the lasers and modules and gadgets have had their parameters tuned.
Sure.
And by tuned, I mean just shaken up and thrown back out. And
Yeah.
you know, I think learning how to get your hardware set up to a good optimal, like, kind of middle point, so that you're not having to deal with the swapping of lasers and modules mid run. But like, that being an option now is huge.
Yeah.
And the number one thing I was actually pleasantly surprised to see is that the default Arbor mining lasers actually have good stats to go mine with. So
yeah,
instead of, where previously you'd get a new ship, it would put you midway through that learning curve and say, okay, you're going to get a laser with no modules, no bonuses. It's going to be middle of the road difficulty compared to going and spending, 25,000 if you're getting another laser to lower that bar.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, rented prospectors are actually going to be a viable option for people where it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah, like in 318 or before, a rented prospector, you don't really have the option to mine your average Quantanium rock, which is, again, like we had said, the only thing you can mine to make any sort of money, and it's not really worth your time, or people would do it, but it probably wasn't very enjoyable. And then now it's crazy how you could just experience it the same way that we would with the ships that we own, but only get a slightly reduced experience. We just get to have more layers on top of it now, where they're stuck with their one laser at the moment, and that's it. They're still able to mine certain rocks that we would still choose to mine, probably, right? But Croncy, what's your experience been with, like, setup and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, I think setup is a bit weird at the moment, because if we had this entire mining rework happen without the addition of the port unlocking and locking and being able to do that, it would still be a fantastic change, and there'd be a lot of bonuses to it. The only thing that is making setup a bit more awkward is the fact that we have extra stuff that we can do now.
Yeah,
we don't
so you want
to. Yeah, exactly. We don't have to swap our mining laser heads. We don't have to swap our modules, but I'm going to, because it's cool and it's new.
Yeah.
So, even if that was removed, the mining update's fantastic. But with all of that being added and it not working as how they want in future, that's, like, fine, basically. So I don't really have an issue with that. And I will say, though, that it's been really exciting testing out different module and laser configurations to find the perfect thing to crack whatever rock you come up against now, because there's so many variations of what you can encounter now. It's not just this rock is hard or unstable. That's really all it was before. Those were the only differences. It's like, no, like, you've also got to put in density into it. Like, mass matters a lot. You might be able to crack a rock at 18,000 mass with a prospector, and then not crack a rock at 10,000 mass with a prospector. Like it's so different now. So
I'm loving it. Red, you want to add anything to that? And what has your experience been? I mean, maybe we can get into that now. Have you used the prospector mostly? Have you been using a mole, or is Sunday going to be your big day to test the mole with your big group?
Yeah. So actually, this week it's going to be Monday. I've got other stuff going on, so I won't do it Sunday. But my experience so far, I've taken the mole out just to get the variety of laser heads and modules, and kind of just get an understanding of what each of them is throwing out there. The things I've noticed are the minimum laser power is there's significant changes there. You can't zero out a laser. You gotta, you talk about that idling speed. You have most lasers that have like a 25% minimum power, and looking for a laser that's got that really, really low floor, like the Hofstede now, that's going to be critical for getting your second and third breaks. And I think it's going to make it one of the required loadouts for a mole crew to have that final. And obviously, the Croncy touched on the mass. Huge changes in overall mass for the rock. I think that factors into the density of certain elements. And, whatever combo you get, we're seeing rocks at 115,000, 120,000 mass. which are clearly going to need multiple ships to try and take on.
Now, Croncy, before you jump in, if you were planning on responding or adding to that, what are your thoughts, you two, if I found an exploit to zero out the mining laser and they know about it, should I mention it here so we get as many IC reports as possible? I still have to make the IC report. I haven't made it yet, so I can't even link it. But Torsten knows about it. I just told him.
I reckon if you chuck it on the YouTube video, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Get some reports in. We're still PTU.
Yeah.
If you put your mining laser to extraction mode and click the rock, it applies all of the bonuses.
Yeah. I guess that would be a bug, wouldn't it? Because that also
it's not
happened
intended.
Like that also happened like pre 319. It's just like, why would you do that?
I didn't even know that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I would never do it, so I didn't know why. So
yeah,
because that happens, you lose the minimum mining laser, and it just breaks the whole thing. So like he just happened to be here this morning, and I was like, "Hey, did you know this is a thing?" And he was like, "Oh shit!" So he just go send me the IC report, and I was okay. So yeah, because that's 100% an exploit, and we were doing it in the mole yesterday, and I was like, "This is bad. We have to do something about this."
So just to clarify what's going on here, you're switching one laser to the extraction laser, hitting the rock, and it's applying the bonuses from that laser so that the others can go
or switching 5 and getting a green zone that's god tier, and then using one with the minimum laser on a super small piece to actually break. You know what I mean? So it's just it's so broken. So it's one of those things that like all this amazing work that they did is getting ruined by this one little thing, and it's like we got to get that one fixed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will put the IC report in top of the description. Sorry, guys, you would have been the top of the description. That'll be the top, and you got your socials are going to be right below it. Okay. But yeah, I did mining with the mole, and that was the biggest change. One of the biggest changes for me was the minimum laser powers. Like Croncy, you want to talk about that? How's your experience been with it? But it was a challenge.
Yeah, so it adds another. It's a little bit of a layer of complexity, but it's also just another layer that they can do some balancing around. They can, do these things where they're able to make all of the lasers relevant, right? The minimum laser power really helps there. So one example is the Helix, which used to be God tier, then the Lancet became God tier, and now it's another decent all arounder again, right? But one of the biggest things that makes it kind of bad is that it's got 25% minimum laser power, and it's got a lot of laser power. Like that, it is not anything to squawk at. So it is terrible at cracking small rocks. Absolutely garbage at cracking small rocks.
Yeah.
And I like that. That's awesome because it means that if I am using the Helix, it's either going to be really hard for me to crack those small rocks. So I'm not just face rolling every single rock I find, or I have to think about my choices a bit more. I have to mess around with some modules, or just choose rocks that are going to be a bit more careful for me. So I really like that they added that stat. Another stat that they added in general, which I really like, is the cluster chance that comes on one of the mining gadgets, which I hope that they work around with a bit more. Just having a couple of extra things. Like we were talking in our chat, about the resistance is kind of boring and doesn't really make sense, and we don't know what it does. It's nice to have these other stats that you can actually physically see when you use them, what happens.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Yeah, to touch on those modules, like that cluster percentage is huge, right? It's the unicorn factor of if you're going to take on like 100,000 mass rock, it absolutely makes sense to get out, throw on one of those gadgets, so that you can confirm those materials get into one or two clusters. Because I've seen rocks that are going to require multiple breaks instead of just the first break, second break. Right, I'm going third. It's all mass driven now. But yeah, I like that parameter, and definitely makes gadgets a lot more relevant, I hope.
Yeah, and the thing that I'm noticing too is that a lot of the materials where in previous patches you would go, okay, I'm looking for a rock of a certain mass with a high percentage of Quantanium or maybe you would do a Greasium and Laranite. And those would be the only ones that you would choose because you knew you were going to get 100% pieces. How often are you guys seeing 100% pieces? I'm not seeing them as often, which means this thing, this stat is actually relevant. And if you want to take the extra time to try and get more 100% pieces, you can. If you don't have to, and throw away your inert, make more trips to the refinery, but it's an option for you, and it's very Star Citizen of them to just give many options to us to choose the way that we want to play this specific gameplay. So I really like that. I haven't used it though, because those gadgets have some negatives on them, man. They have some positives and they got some negatives, right? So how much have you used them? I've only used the one with the 100% green zone, because I've been using the Helix more than the other lasers, and that's obviously the negative on the Helix. But have you guys used them? What's your experience been with them?
I had a look at the Optimax. Previously, it was when I'd be messing around or I just wanted to test stuff. Optimax was the only one I would use pre 319, and it is much worse. It's mostly resistance minuses at the moment, which we've sort of been noticing resistance isn't as relevant as a stat as it may have used to be, because now the masses are just so vastly different that is more important than resistance itself.
Yeah, until you hit a 50% resistance rock like I saw today.
Yeah. I saw just earlier, yeah. I will say, though, you mentioned, clustering being more rare of a thing. It seems as though, at least from my experience that I've had so far, that clustering is also tied into the minerals. So if you have a rock that has a particular mineral, I don't know which one it is, it's a higher chance of, when it breaks, clustering the rocks away. Furthermore, it also, pre-319, it was basically, if you had a rock that was under about 250 mass, that was purple. You can go for an extraction. It was somewhere around that number. It seems to be completely arbitrary now.
It's so weird.
Yeah, I found one rock that was 2,000 mass of Laranite that was purple, and then I found one rock that was 1,200 mass of Laranite that I had to break. So I'm actually not 100% sure what's happening there. It doesn't feel like a bug. It feels like I'm missing something, because there's so much new information coming through with this patch, which I know Red has been absolutely spamming through. He's been sending us all the luck chances and everything of all the rocks. So it's been really weird. The fact that it was the exact same mineral but a different mass and wasn't able to be cracked, it was strange.
Yeah, go ahead, Red.
Yeah, I would say the density changes on the specific minerals are going to be huge. That's going to factor a lot into, previously it was 50 mass to 1 SCU, or that conversion factor. Looking at the actual details on the mineable elements, there is a unique clustering factor per element, so that's going to make a big difference. If you're going after something like quartz or titanium, those have the highest factor.
Okay.
Compared to things like bexlite and gold, they have the absolute lowest. So if you're going after that, if it's combined with like quartz and titanium, you'll probably get a good break. But if it's combined with something in the middle like iron, those are
I didn't even think of that part. Yeah, so the common might affect, will affect what your break possibility is.
And that goes into the new rock compositions, right? We have our main types that we know, igneous, granite, gneiss, and our type asteroids. But there's now subtypes based on that bulk material. And they talked about that, but like titanium, tungsten, quartz, iron, copper, corundum, and aluminum, we're going to see 2 or 3 of those minerals on every rock in each location. So planets, moons, Lagrange points, those are going to be the bulk materials we'll see 40 to up to 100% of, and I'm sure you guys have seen it. But the rock type then has some effect on the inclusions. Now, I haven't seen the latest data from the patch they pushed last night. That was talking about kind of the talking a little bit more about the distribution changes, because like Quantanium has a chance to show up everywhere now, right? Quantanium deposits as they existed are gone.
Yeah.
Q types are irrelevant
Yep.
because it had not had a higher chance for Quantanium anymore, and that's kind of what we all knew it as.
Sure.
So, yeah,
Okay.
kind of those uncommon and rare elements that'll be brought in. Those do matter based on the rock type, but that bulk factor.
Okay, Croncy, how do you feel about that? Or both of you, we'll come back to you guys for both of you for this. How do you feel about it? Because I did see some comments of the random like loot box element of these rare items always being everywhere. So far I haven't had a bad experience with mining. Like I just go out there and it's like, ooh, a shiny, I mine it. Ooh, a shiny, I mine it. If I come across Quantanium, I'm happy about it. But the we don't go to Lyria and target anymore in a way. And even though they said, okay, certain things would be here and certain things would be there, it's really only the commons for the most part, right? So how do you guys feel about that from a long term, or I don't know. Obviously they're not done with mining, but how do you guys feel about it? I don't know how else to ask the question. It's totally different than the way it was before.
Well, I do actually think that location does actually seem to matter so far, and it's not just for the base mineral. So one thing that I've noticed so far is Quantanium. Once again, can be found basically anywhere, but it seems to be more commonly found in the Microtech system and the RCorp system, basically the two furthest out systems of the whole thing. And as a response to that, that's also why they made Hurston the best place to sell Quantanium. They've had that actively in mind. They know that you're going to get it there. Make the distances longer. Here's the better price. So there is a bit of that involved, but it's not go to one specific point now. It's now there's a little bit better chance of them being found in these other locations. I've also seen people be like, hey, well, you know, this sucks now. I can't just go get Quantanium, whatever. That's because you're thinking of mining in terms of pre-319. It is completely different now. You will not be mining the same way. You are not going after Quantanium anymore. You're going after decent deposits. And there are now different ways to find those decent deposits and scan for those decent deposits. So obviously, it's been 3 days. Barely 3 days.
Yeah.
So we still need to see everything. There's more rebalance happening, just like there did today, where apparently Quantanium is now more a little bit more common to find than it was in the previous 2 days. So that's very important. But I mean, I'm finding nothing bad about this system that they've made.
Okay. Yeah, and to touch on that, like Quantanium was the go-to because the profitability factor, right? And the consistency of finding it made it that monoculture. Now we have gold, Terranite, and Bexalite are like tier ones. They've bumped those prices to the point that they're like 90% of what Quantanium used to earn, but they are found everywhere, right? Yeah. You can go find a small chunk of that. I think Quantanium, it was consistently high, but it was the only thing you could go after. Where they've now given us 3 options and given them all about 90%, I think it's going to diversify the places you're mining. It's going to diversify what you're looking for when mining, and really I hopefully make it so that you have a lot less of those jackpot moments. You know, granted, with Quantanium being, you know, the price they've raised it to now at like 25,000 per SCU, like you're gonna get a couple of jackpot moments here and there, but consistency through the other options we have now, I think we've gone from one really profitable to 3 or 4 very profitable options that are going to help break that up.
Yeah. And the other thing that I look at this as is you also have to look at all this past 319. They're continuously discussing crafting with us, even though I'm very happy on Star Citizen Live. Torsten was like the very far future when he said, like, he even said very far future crafting. So don't expect it anytime soon. But they are setting up for it. Like, Terranite, Laranite, Quantanium, all these things are not going to stay the way that they are, like static for the most part, the way they are now. They're going to be rotating, and there's going to be reasons, hopefully, for different values in the future. You know, just we gotta get Tony Z out of cryosleep and we'll be okay. But the once there's more dynamism, I guess, to the economy, there'll be it just this is so much better for that, right? Quantanium is really valuable, but now the way they put things around the planetary bodies and in the rocks themselves just sets up for crafting and for any future you want to have, because Quantanium might not be the most valuable in the future, right?
And a quick note about that, in previous patches, they've actually had like the shop inventory and sales prices as part of the game package data, indicating it was a static. Someone was going through manually entering those values in an XML table, right?
Yep.
And this patch, that doesn't exist, right?
Really?
That table is not part of the export, so it hints that they're going into a dynamic pricing, that those things behind the scenes are going to be a lot more variable based on those demands. So
that's interesting. So that'll be like we might have to come together, a few months from now and see kind of what has changed and how things have evolved over time, because maybe they actually will. Yeah. I think one of my favorite things, we touched on it a little bit, is the ability to make a build of a ship. Do you guys have any in mind or any ideas so far? And what are you guys thinking? I've had one of my friends share a totally different build than I had in mind. I shared you guys a build, but I gave the wrong module on it. Was like I meant Ryger, but yeah. So Croncy, go ahead. You start. Do you have any fun builds in mind so far?
Yeah, I mean, the triple impact is always going to be a funny one. Just go as hard laser as you possibly can, just to try to crack the absolute massive mass rocks. I am a big fan at the moment so far of a mole with a helix, a Hofstadter, and the other one that no one ever used, Klein. Hofstadter, Klein, and a helix seems to be a pretty decent like combination that I don't then have to swap my lasers all the time, if you know what I mean. So
for people that don't know why is it your favorite?
Because it's so well rounded. It doesn't punish you for going after really any rock. Like you can have builds where you've got your Lancet for your negative instability, you've got your Helix or Impact for your laser power, and then really whatever else. This one's kind of like, well, here's your Helix, which is good all rounder. Here's your Hofstadter, so that your punishments from your Helix get kind of nerfed, exactly. And then here's your Klein as a similar sort of thing, because the Klein and Hofstadter actually have some pretty similar stats. And it means, your green zone's not too small, your instability is not too small, your resistance isn't too small, everything's sort of, it's kind of just, it's fine. And I'm always a fan of ones that are just kind of fine. But I do love the builds that are kind of like, all right, we're going to triple Lancet, but we're going to have every module available in the back, so that whatever rock we find, we'll just chuck them all on the Lancets and go from there.
Okay. What about you, Red?
So far, I haven't discovered a one specific build I've been going after. I'm still trying to figure out what the parameters and values we're going to be seeing on those rocks are. But I can say absolutely the Hofstede laser, because of that minimum power, it's a much smaller. That's going to make those smaller rocks easier to break. So I think that's going to be a mandatory loadout in any mole, or potentially if you've got a multi-crew, getting a prospector out there with that to do the cleanup. And I think overall, like gadgets, the Optimax is a 60% cluster factor. Like that's the unicorn factor, right?
I love that that's a part of a build too. Right?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And I would say, like, you go out, you find your first rock, you throw an Optimax on it, and that's going to save you so much time if you can get those, that unicorn break with everything in the 1 or 2 factors, right?
Yeah.
I think that's exactly where to go for.
Yeah. They think you're smart.
Well.
I mentioned like the max power build, which it's so stupid. There's no way it's going to work because your green zone would be so small. But it was just, we did 3 helixes with 3 Rygers on each helix, and it was just the 100, because we came across 111,000 mass rock, and it was like, can we do this? And I don't think so. The max we were able to mine yesterday, we had 2 moles. One of them wasn't fully crewed; it only had 2 lasers in it. we had 2 moles, and we were breaking 65k mass rocks. We didn't have all the modules we wanted because it was obviously like so time consuming to get. That's 3 lasers per 3 modules per. So the process of getting those on and off was not very easy, but that was where we were at. So we have a ways to go to figure out all these things. And Torsten, I think on Spectrum definitely mentioned there are rocks that are meant to be multiple moles. Didn't just say 2. Said multiple. So that might be the case with those, and that's awesome too, right?
One thing I wanted to clarify, you said you're using the Riger modules, but those don't give optimal charge window size anymore. You've got to use the focus.
No, we were using
those will give you.
We're talking about straight power, because that was like the passive power. So I think it was 2 Riger and a Surge.
Oh man!
So we were just going nuts and just slamming Surge, which is also one of the coolest things, because Surge now has 7 charges and it only lasts 15 seconds. So everybody's spamming Surge, and from a visual standpoint, it is so cool. If I can find the clip in my 10-hour stream, I will try to like maybe overlay it over this section of the podcast or something. It is wild. So there's a lot of just fun, and I think for the first time in Star Citizen, we have so much information. This is the most in-depth any mechanic has ever been. There's nothing else like this in Star Citizen. So the amount of time, the amount of learning we have to do is exciting. This makes 3.19 the patch. Every patch gets boring after a while, right? How long is it going to take this one to get boring? This will be the longest one by far for me. It may not get boring before 320. I don't. It's a high possibility. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Let me think. What else? Have you guys gone prospector mining, or have you mostly done moles? What have you done the most so far?
I've mostly checked out the mole just because the only real difference between the mole and the prospector is laser power and module size, right? So, mostly just like I spent 6.5 hours just going through, what stats everything has and what the rocks feel like. So haven't had a chance to do that yet, but I will say the one thing that I absolutely have always hated in Star Citizen is people that solo mole.
Me too.
And I now have to concede solo moling might be okay now, and I might not hate it anymore.
Bro,
it's always been okay.
No,
it's never been okay.
No,
it has always been okay.
The only reason I didn't like it was I held a grudge against the mole never living up to its potential in the way that it does now. So it was like, it just bothered me that it existed, right? Because of the way everything was. Now it's whatever. Now it's fine. Yeah. But part of me, let me know what you guys think. I said it today, and I know it's not a good idea, but part of me thinks it is. What if you got a debuff for only using 1 laser on a mole, and you got the bonus for using 3? The minimum laser power ruins that, unfortunately, I think.
Yeah. I don't think you need that debuff, because you still do have a thing where you are more inclined to use a prospector over a mole for a couple of things. One is security. You're always on your guns and you're able to get out of dodge if you need to. You do lose a little bit of time, obviously, from moving between lasers, as well as the mole just guzzles up fuel like other, right? So there's that to be considered as well. So I don't think you need to have that. But maybe if you have I guess if you do have multiple solo moles, it would do that. So I think it's fine.
I think it still adds the instability when the second mole goes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So there's no benefit to because a lot of people will say, oh, well, you've got the cargo bay. Well, it's like, yeah, well, then the only reason you would solo in that instance is if you want the extra cargo base. So I don't think it would matter necessarily.
Well, and now with the detachable saddlebags, right? You can have a donor mole come swap out cargo. Your cargo isn't limited, so the prospector might make more sense. But obviously, we need a way to craft those cargo, like those saddlebags, in situ, right? If we just throw some extra iron in there and it generates it for us, like that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
Mike was pointing out the waste of space at the back of the Prospector. Like,
Yep.
have that be, give me a dense pack saddlebag that I can throw in a crafting system. It expands it, and then attach that.
Yeah. I was thinking that it would be a good spot for swapping your mining lasers, but I like that idea as well, right? It just, what was that there for in the first place? I have no idea. It's cool when it looks cool when it opens, but what does it do? So
Fidelity.
yeah, exactly.
Fidelity.
The other thing about just that silly comment that I made about the solo mole is, in the future, obviously we're gonna see some changes to the flight model. I don't think getting out of your seat in atmosphere is going to be a thing. Like, I don't think we're going to get hover mode the way we had way back in the day, but I'm not entirely sure your ship is going to be as stable, especially a ship that is shaped like a box or something like that is going to be as stable as people may expect it to be, or something. Maybe it'll cost even more fuel. I don't know.
We already get blown around. Like, if you've ever
We
done
do.
microtech and moons mining, right? You get out of your seat, and that rock is 50 meters away by the time you actually get in to start mining.
Yeah.
Then, and I've had times when I've gotten on a prospector and I have struggled to maintain even positioning on a rock as I'm in that laser, or in that mining mode.
Yeah.
In the prospector pilot seat, getting blown by the wind, directly away from.
Yep.
So
Yeah, so maybe it's only going to be viable in the Halo, and in your experience, have you seen any like really big rocks in the Halo? It seems like they're smaller. Okay, go ahead, Croncy. I have
Yeah.
not. I don't mind in the Halo much. I just prefer the planets. It's just my preference. So I have not even been there yet.
Yeah. So pre 319, I think the largest mass rock you would find in the Halo was around 5600. Red would know the exact number probably, but
Yeah.
it would never go. It would never go very large. You would never get your 8K mass rocks or anything.
Okay.
And the equivalent of a 5600 right now is probably around the 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 mass for reference. I have found 55K, 75K mass rock on one trip into the Halo. So,
Cool.
as well as I found those small rocks that you can immediately start mining. So they do have the
Sick.
full range, like how we have on Moons and Planets now. So
Beautiful.
it is very different. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
yeah. The largest I've seen, at least I just checked through some screenshots, was about 72,000 mass.
Okay.
Where previously we had 3 sizes it would go through. You get 4631, 4931, or 5122, and it was exactly those 3 masses, right? And what was been the most surprising for me is we have seen those large rocks paired up next to something that's like 10% of that size, right? Huge differences, and it was really great to see. Like, the one small rock was sunward, starward of, and casting a shadow on that larger one just to give a really, a sense of scale. And that to me made so much more sense than 8 rocks in a cluster that are all the exact same size. That you're gonna get some variety out there, and I thought that was great. The one side rock, it instantly collectible, right? It didn't have to break it at all. But the other one, yeah, I broke 2 or 3 times in order to get it down to a processing level.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing is, we're getting so many more clusters, which is also really great. And the old days, it felt like every cluster you would find, there would only really be one that you would break. Now I'm going through a cluster and it's like, well, I would break that if I had a mole, and there's 2 that I would break with a prospector. Oh, and there's a purple over there with gold in it. Like, again, it's just you're spending more time mining and you're not looking around for these things. Today I had super limited time to get in because I had to set up my prospector, so I was getting all the modules, and then we were going to do this. So I mined 5 or 6 rocks and basically had 2 trips back to the refinery in an hour, right? And I don't think I did bad financially. I had some gold, I had some agricium, I had something else good. I think Terranite, and Beryl seems to be really good too. So it's really interesting in that way. And the one thing that I wanted to move into is this Beryl thing that I noticed is Terranite was 1,300 mass, basically 100%. It was 94%. I extract it, I get, I think it was 6 SCU. Beryl was 200 mass, and I got 4 SCU. So it was like, okay, it just goes back into that of like, I don't choose just one. They were
Yeah.
barrels, I think, Red, if I don't know if you have the list in front of you, but I think it's sort of up there in the price list. And
Yeah.
given if you find one with a lot, now you're talking about, filling maybe multiple prospectors with this stuff, and cargo hauling comes into this now big time.
Yeah. And barrel, it is up in that tier 2, but it's the bottom of the list. It's at 2670-ish per unit, where the tier 2 kind of ranges from that 26 to 44.
Okay.
So, but yeah, like it will be a consistent payday for people. I think the closest thing there was, it used to be like Bexelite and all of the ites, right? Except half-assed tonight, because that I always call that the half-assed tonight.
Yeah.
Right, but now those tier 2s, like there's a lot more consistency there. But yeah, the tier 1s are really what you're going to be looking for.
Yeah.
But those tier 2s are like, I'd go out and do Quantanium, right? Pull as much Quantanium as I could, and anything else that ended up in there, I wouldn't even worry about refining.
No. Same.
Right? If I had Borays, I might consider it, but it was just not worth the value to refine, haul, and then sell for a measly like $400, $500 per line item.
Yeah. And one of my favorite things has nothing to do with mining. If you pick up a 1 SCU box, there's a little thing that says placeholder below it. And I'm pretty sure what's going to happen is when we add these things to our cargo ship after our refining process, we're going to be able to pull off the one that sells better in Microtech and put it on the cargo ship that's going to Microtech, and the one that sells good in ArcCorp, we're going to move it and put it to the one. It's going to say, this is 1 SCU a barrel, or hopefully in future patches, 16 SCU, 24 SCU, 32 SCU like containers that will move of these commodities to specific locations. So now that's one of the bigger changes as well, that it has so much to do with mining, but it also just touches everything in terms of economy, cargo hauling, all that stuff. So splitting these up and sending them everywhere just adds so many additional levels, right? It's really exciting. That hypes me up for the future, but I love how this is setting up for that, because obviously it just says placeholder. I have no idea what's what, because a lot of minerals have similar color boxes, right? Quantanium has a special one, I think. But besides that,
we're getting really close to a big thing that exists in Eve, which is Excel spreadsheet citizen.
Yes.
Which always sounds really boring, but is honestly one of the most fun things you can do when you're doing trading. Being able to track all of your refinery jobs.
Look at how excited Red is.
And figure out.
If there's one thing I love more than Star Citizen industrial gameplay, it's making spreadsheets. Okay, don't test me on this. Okay.
So it's all really nice big changes. One thing that so you were talking about, like, Beryl is now this compound that's worth it. I think there's one thing that's really important about this entire rework, which is that new players can come into the mining gameplay loop now, and they don't have to, like, if they ask someone, hey, what should I be doing, they don't have to immediately go into Quantanium mining having no experience blowing up their ship 90 times. They can really just mine anything, and they can make a decent amount of profit, enough to actually get them in the door, rather than a new player back in the day. So I'm a really big fan of that.
100%. Anything you want to add?
Like
Red?
I said,
go ahead.
That new player experience, getting in an arbor mining laser, you got resistance reduction or instability reduction, optimal charge window increase. It's the things that I always preach make mining easier. If you're dealing with that instability, mouse and scroll wheel is like one of the worst ways to have to control laser power. The responsiveness is crap. I always advocate for going with a throttle slider, or like even in my own setup, I use rudder pedals for my roll, so I free up that right twist axis to do my laser power. Those factors are a lot more accurate, but it's because that instability you're trying to get after, and bringing in new miners, people who are renting with that with that laser helps a ton.
Yeah,
and also they don't need to go throw into Quantanium mining right off the bat, because everything else, like you've got 3 separate tiers now of very profitable material you can go for.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, damn. I was going to say something. I forgot what it was now. I'm bummed out because it was good. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what else. Oh yes, now I remember. What is because I've seen some at least Croncy clips. What is the funniest thing that has happened to you so far? Croncy, we'll let you go first because I was there for this one.
Yeah. So we were testing all the new lasers and we were testing the rocks and whatnot. And I think it might have actually been a rock that was Beryl. Beryl seems to have a negative effect to your green zone.
Yes.
So that, in addition to the Lancet, which also has a very negative effect to your green zone right now, you can currently make a green zone that is completely empty and doesn't exist. So it was just either underpowered or red zone. We even checked it. There was no green charge at all. It just immediately went red.
Yeah.
So that was kind of funny. I'm a big fan that that's a possibility. And it sort of explains what we're talking about with like everything is so varied now that there are so many different possibilities. So yeah, that was funny. I like that.
Yeah.
What about you, Red?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the times I've had just seeing a rock that I could throw a helix at and not break, that's been the main thing. But yes, that tiny optimal charge window and having to just toggle your laser on at the minimum power to write it up and then let it cool off and then write it up some more and let it, you're going to overcharge a little bit if you're not careful with it. But that's been, I would say frustrating. What I really want to get out and do, and I haven't had a chance to do it yet, is try to do multiple mining gadgets. It's got a little warning on there now that if you put multiple.
Yeah.
I went and I had like 17 Optimax that I threw on a rock and filled the entire optimal charge window, and the thing spontaneously broke. Right.
Yeah.
I didn't have to touch it, but what happens when you start adding that second gadget, and the third and the fourth, like at what point do we open up a rift in space time? Right?
Well, I can tell you that's where I was going to go. I have opened a rift multiple times now. When you put on 3 helixes and have plus 600 shatter damage, and you blow up a rock, I didn't die. I teleported 20 kilometers away. I QT'd away from the location. So if you get pirated, just blow up the rock and you might QT away from the person. We didn't die. And it happened multiple times. Just launched ships into orbit as we were blowing these things up. It was so funny. Like,
in the business, we call that the squid ink defense.
Yes. Like, oh no, I see a bunch of red markers. Launch the laser power up. See you later, buddy. Yeah, so it was wild. I don't know why we weren't dying, but I'm happy we didn't because we just went right back down and went after it again. But it was funny. Yeah, somebody just put a clip in the chat for us. I'll try to share that with you guys as well. But those were my funny moments of, because on the Helix description in game, I don't see the plus 200%. Is it there? Like I might have missed it. But
it
on
definitely
the
pops
UI,
up
it's there.
In the UI. Yeah. It definitely pops up in the UI, which also is a side thing. Big fan of that you have that very mostly easy to understand UI in the bottom left, at least on the mole. It's on the bottom left.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Have you guys done any Quantanium mining and successfully done it yet?
I've lived in spreadsheets for the last couple of days. Like, I'll get into the verse sometime soon. I
did, but I refined, and as I was bringing it to sell, there was another ship inside the hangar, and I crashed and blew myself up.
Yeah, I want to point out, I was watching this. I was watching this. Why did you try to land? You saw the ship was there.
I thought I could fit. I was in a Hole. I was in a Hole. I thought I could fit. Yeah. I think any pilot that is nowhere near as bad as I am, because I'm terrible at flying, would have been fine. You two would have been fine. I'm sure of it. Me, no. I'm terrible. So I we got to the point where it's like I can't fly the mole because I was always a prospector guy for the most part, and trying to fly it, it's a flying potato.
Yeah, the mole flies like a brick, right?
Yeah.
With a
because it looks like a brick.
Yeah.
It looks like a brick, absolutely. But yeah, the atmospheric. That's one of my big frustrations, especially with the solo mole, is the maneuverability of it. right? Getting in and out, and I say there's a big factor for like people with racing ships or something that's faster. Get between A and B if you're going to be out there surveying.
Yeah.
Which brings me to another good point. Like, can we please get better range on the detailed scanners? I don't want to scrape my nose on the rocks every time.
Yeah.
That I'm trying to find the details.
There we go. We found the thing we're mad about. Scanning, dude. Holy, it's so brutal. It was weird. One of the patches, I think 2 PTU patches ago, I was able to get a more detailed scan from far away. But in the last 2, I have to turn my mining laser on, I feel like, to get it to scan as quickly as possible and as easily, and I have to be 500 meters from it, something like that. It's that's not a good experience, I'd say. So
yeah,
we would like the thing that I shared that I thought was the most positive of we're scanning less and mining more. It could even be better if the scanning mechanic was improved significantly, right? I know, Croncy, you were looking into this a lot. Are you learning, and maybe Red, you have some information as well, are you learning what the, what was it, the scan values, are you starting to kind of gauge what you might be seeing, or is it just random numbers that are popping up at this point?
No, yeah. So it's not random numbers, but it's not. It's unfortunately not helpful numbers. It seems. So it does I don't remember specific ones, but as an example, you get an energy signature of like 1850 will be a P-type asteroid. Unfortunately, that doesn't matter.
Mean anything?
It's what's actually in the asteroid that matters in terms of what your rarities are going to be. So all they need to do, really, because they do have these subtypes, like Red was talking about before, is just making the super types the same thing, because the super types just mean nothing.
Yeah. Like, does a P-type asteroid even have a specific comment in it anymore?
They don't have a specific common element.
Okay.
Right? There are tier 3s. There's 7 of them. You're going to get 2 or 3 of them in everything. But the P-type asteroid will have a series of those uncommon and rares that's a better chance, that's more unique to that P-type asteroid comparatively, right? And the thing is, they've gone through, instead of having one row definition for every P-type asteroid that's shared, there's a P-type with the subtype, and each subtype has a unique combination. So, but yeah, it's the elements that you're going to get with that. It's a lot of data, which is great for me, but every specific main type has those unique subtypes or sub minerals that are going to be, E-type, for example, is going to have a lot higher chance for agricium, boraze, and beryl, where like terranite is way, way low.
Okay.
Right? So those are kind of the things we're going to need to watch out for going into the future. Yes. And knowing, I'm looking at the different subtypes there, like there are some subtypes where agricium is more prominent, but maybe beryl is, second place, I think it's going to be, it's a lot of information, but yeah, realistically, the main type is going to determine what those uncommon and rare elements are going to be.
Okay. And before we move on, just if any of you guys are watching and you want to call in and share or ask questions, whatever, share a statement about mining yourselves, the calls will be open in a little while. But if not, that's fine as well. We'll just keep talking about mining for a little while. But I also wanted to talk to you guys a little bit more about yourselves. Usually I would do this at the beginning, but I just was so excited to talk about mining, I jumped right into it. What got you guys into Star Citizen? Croncy, you've been on the podcast before, but it's been a while. So what got you here? What got you into mining? What other games you played inspired you to be excited about this in particular?
Yeah, so I was a big MMO player, have been for years and years and years, massively into World of Warcraft, big EVE Online player. So I was always just looking for something else to occupy myself. And then towards the end of 2019, up on my recommended on YouTube, I started to see a bunch of the CitizenCon talks come up, and 2019 was a big CitizenCon year. We saw the Carrick jump point and everything, and that was an absolutely awesome presentation. So that started to get me hooked. I had a friend who had been following the project for a really long time, so I was always aware of it, just never really looked into it.
Okay.
And then was surprised to learn that you could actually, at the time, you could play it. you could actually jump in and play it. Now, obviously, it was very buggy, it had low frame rate, all that other stuff, but I could do stuff that I enjoyed. So yeah, got into it that way. Always really enjoyed the resource and trade style of gameplay in other MMOs, so gave that a try in Star Citizen. Was very pleasantly surprised about how they decided to do their mining gameplay loop.
Same.
So that it wasn't just left click to mine. Awesome, you're already way ahead of like 90% of other MMOs. And then it just kept going with it. So I've been playing that ever since, and always been really a big fan of mining.
Nice. What about you, Red?
So I got kicked off in 2015. I had actually heard a coworker of mine. He's one of those that bought the $25,000 package, like right off the bat. But he was talking about this space game. I've enjoyed the genre for a long time and was looking for options. So backed in at 2015, and my first ship was the Mustang Alpha, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And within like 2 days, I had refunded that and brought out the Aurora, because at that time it was just so broken.
Yeah.
But like that was 2.6 or kind of along those days. We really only had the Arena Commander module. But I really enjoyed it. I played up through, kind of the introduction of Portal Asar and the Persistent Universe. And then about patch 3.4, things broke for me. So my hardware, planet surfaces just would not be there. It was finally the time where you could like get out and walk around on them, but I couldn't see anything. And I was so frustrated with the game, I gave up and I went over and I played Elite Dangerous. Well, I know some people are going to be upset about that.
Why?
But I played Elite Dangerous for a couple of years. And went through, did the exploration of mining. But yeah, the thing I found with mining was it was very much point click, collect and go, right? There was a little bit of detail about going and finding good rocks, but I like some of those more complex game loops. So when I came back, I've been back for like 3 years or so, and kind of mid-COVID was a group of mine, actually the Utah Bar Citizens, did in-game events, and we had a demolition derby, and I was like, okay, like planet surfaces work, like this type of thing is really cool. Got into that, and then looked at mining gameplay. It had gone through several iterations. I think the initial iteration was like 3.4, so coming back in like 3.10, 3.12 time period. Mining gameplay had changed a ton, and I was really excited about it. I went out, I was harvesting, going through rock mining with a Cutty Black, and that was about all I could do at that point. But
hell yeah,
kind of got hooked on it.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I was very similar with Croncy. I just did the more industrial stuff in the MMOs that I had played, and it was the same. It was like, I don't left click to mine, and you're not watching Netflix while you're doing it. This is great. I came to Star Citizen because of their 2013 or 2012 like economy video, something like that, and it was just I was like, this is what I want, and I've been yelling and screaming for it to become a thing more and more every day since then, and this is one of those like moments that it's actually coming to fruition, and took longer than I would have liked, but it's here, so I'm happy it's here, and that's it. People can't comprehend me being happy. They don't understand what's happening right now, but it's like, it's as simple as they did a really good job, and how I'm not going to complain for the sake of complaining. It's because it's good, right? It's super fun. So I don't know, what are your plans for the next couple weeks? Name some of the things that you absolutely like have to do. You want to get to, you want to try with this, because some people can't play it right now, and I don't think you guys understand. There's Fukio, I don't know how to say his name, but his name's Sam in chat. He and I have been talking for years about these changes. He works at CIG, and he was a big part of like the people who distribute the minables across the planets. And I've just been talking to him for years, and it's finally here, the things that we've been talking about. So it's just such a big deal. It's so awesome. So thank you, Sam. I don't know. I think Sam's moved on a little bit from that, and I don't know how much he did for this specific patch, but I know he impacted it big time. So yeah. Good times. But yeah, what are you guys like have to do? What are things that you haven't done yet, maybe, that you want to do with mining? I think is more the better way to ask the question.
Well, one of the biggest things that this patch as a whole, not just the mining changes, but also the tractor beam port changes has made, is that you can already right now do a really, really cool actual proper mining operation with enough people.
Yeah.
So it's not ideal. You do have to have like a loaner mole that you're using to ferry materials back and forth, but it's there. We can actually do a thing with that now that's a little bit more interesting, and that once again we're not just looking for quant. So the whole loop just gets a little bit more fun. So definitely want to do a big thing of that, and I want to see if I can instant crack a 150k rock. I don't know how I'm going to do it. It's going to require weird mining gadgets, weird modules, all that sort of stuff. But I want to try to theory craft instant cracking just a massive rock.
Yeah, I wonder how many people it would take.
Yeah,
a whole server or something. You know,
yeah.
that'd be cool. But
yeah,
I want to do rock mining. I haven't done rock mining yet. I mean, one of the best changes I think is the number of rocks that we're getting. Like I mentioned earlier, we're getting a lot of clusters. That's huge for rock mining because it was before you spent all your time scanning and none of your time mining. And now I'm really interested. Do we know the one question that I would have for you guys, because I haven't looked, have they changed the prices of those or have they kept them about the same?
From what I've seen, they've been the same, but I'm not 100% sure.
Obviously, they added Janelite, which is the new one. But have any of you guys seen that?
I have not seen Janelite. I saw a couple of mentions of it, and the fact that it's coming in at like 27,000 credits per unit. I'm
per gem.
I'm blown away by per gem. Like that's 27 million per SCU. It's going to take you a long time to find a full SCU, but. Yeah, Hadronite, Aphorite, and Dolomine, they seem like they're coming in with the same prices they were before. Okay. Haven't seen any variation there. But Janelite is going to be interesting. The fact that it's only in caves, like the distribution charts I'm seeing, it's nowhere on there. So it's obvious like a bespoke placed in a specific location. But yeah, the Hadronite, Aphorite, and Dolomine. I'd love to get out rock mining. Sadly, I don't think this is the patch that the Rock DS becomes relevant. I don't know if there's ever going to be a patch that happens with.
I don't think it'll ever be relevant unless they change something about it.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know. And, did you guys catch SCL yesterday?
No, unfortunately not.
I caught the majority of it.
Okay, it was mentioned. The Rock DS was mentioned, and Torsten said, "You don't want to hear my opinion about it." That's what he said. So that's all I needed to hear. I don't think it's very well liked anywhere, except maybe the marketing department liked it. I don't know.
I mean, Croncy and I actually, if you remember, we had a Rock DS crew, and it was basically I got to play chauffeur, and Croncy sat out on the laser arm, and
was it fun?
It was fun, but it was
fun because you were hanging out.
We were just both kind of joking around and stuff. But I would say I think there is something they could do with the Rock DS that they could learn from what they've done with the mining changes today. What they've done by making the mole more competitive than the prospector, which is that make the laser just a different size, give it some bonuses, give it just a couple of bonuses just to make it
bigger green zone, whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you got to give something for the negative of having that person out in the atmosphere, I guess, or the elements. Yeah.
And that's, that's
go ahead.
The most mind-bending factor is like the Rock DS is the same output as a standard Rock, but you're going to require two people that are then going to coordinate. You're going to make the gameplay more difficult. It is literally a better experience for everyone involved to go with two Rocks.
Yep.
Right? And you can fit that in the Cuddy Black.
Yep.
And you've got to have a special ship. Like you have to have the MSR or the Connie in order to fit that DS in. It makes no sense to make them less efficient for an upscaling of a vehicle.
I think they'll get back to it eventually, and it'll be something that's super cool. But yeah, that's really what I want to do. I want to get out rock mining more as much as possible this patch. But it's going to be so hard because the prospector and mole mining is now so exciting. One of the things that I would have called out as being such a good change or such a good element of rock mining is I scan, I find the rock, I go up to it, I crack it, and I extract right away. I'm not going through multiple cracks and taking tons of time doing that. That is a good thing and a fun thing as well, but it's it just felt like I was always doing something when I was rock mining. And
Mhm.
today was my first experience in a prospector, and I got that experience with the prospector multiple times today on like 3 to 5K mass rocks. I was breaking them almost all purple, and I just scooped and I went back to the refinery. Right. So like
Yeah.
prospector or those smaller rocks that would be difficult to mine, maybe with the more powerful lasers. We're talking. You're getting that what I considered a good experience with the ROC. I'm now getting it with the prospector as well, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Do you guys like the multiple breaks more, or would you want to just be scooping up more often? I
I
think
think it
both are
makes perfect
fine, but
sense.
yeah,
Yeah. It makes sense to go through and, you're talking about breaking down additional times than what we had before. Like it always confused me that we would have a very standard set of sizes, and you could always 100%, like, well, not 100%, like 80% of the time you break a rock and you're going to get sub breaks you've got to fracture again. The exception was when you're going with, like, kind of on that smaller end where you
Mhm.
could get right into harvestable. But yeah, I think having it break down that way makes a lot more sense, especially because we're going to have that clustering factor of the elements, the density changes of those minerals. It makes more logistical sense, right? That's kind of the way it's supposed to work in real life. You don't it's not guaranteed that one or two breaks is going to be ready to go.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. What about you, Croncy? Any preference?
Yeah, no preference. I like the variety, and that's exactly what we're seeing with the clusters of
Yeah,
being able to either go straight for it, one crack, multiple cracks, whatever. It's I think it's good to have it that way, because it's also, it is adding, like, you are adding difficulty as well, in general, by making those additional cracks for those larger items. So the better payout has that extra difficulty,
hmm,
and that's just a thing you should always have in really any mechanic. Is a better payout has that extra layer. So
sure,
I think it's a decent way to do it, especially with how they've recalculated everything.
sure. And I guess we're kind of coming to the end. It's been about an hour, and we don't have any callers. So what I'm what I think we should maybe go into is, and we probably have already touched on these elements already, but give your favorite thing about the mining change, your single favorite thing. I think I would have to think hard on this, and think about the one thing that you would absolutely want to give feedback on and have changed with this system, and share it. So, Red, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah. My favorite thing, obviously, is the mass varieties here. We
Okay.
finally have rocks that are challenging
Hmm.
for even a multi-crew mole, where in prayer patches, you could break any rock in the verse with a lancet, a surge, and a stampede. Right? You do the double surge method, time it properly. There is not a single rock that you could not break as a solo operator. Right? And the fact is, two prospectors would be able to do the exact same thing with just lancets, not even requiring special hardware.
Sure.
Now, with the mass changes, you're going to see a lot more challenge. You're going to need to bring in additional laser operators. It gives a real need for that multiple crew mole. I think that's where we're going to see true multi-crew gameplay. That's where we're going to see orgs and large group mining events that you're going to be excited about, that 120,000 mass, with 30% gold, right? Those are the type of breaks that are going to make people a lot of money, but are going to be challenging to extract.
Yep.
Um, and the one thing that I want to get feedback on, like, please, can we just get distance scanning options? Let's not be scraping our nose against every rock trying to get the secrets, right? It's 2930, 2953. We should be able to scan a rock from a kilometer away and get the details of that rock. So,
Even more, I think you should even be able to scan further away and know
oh,
more about it, like less about it, I should say. Is
yeah,
like for example, if you are a knowledgeable miner, like you two definitely will be, and I will definitely be less so because I can't read and I'm silly. What if you know it's a P type, or you might have a little bit of it, so from a distance, maybe you'll know a little bit more. Maybe if you scroll in, you get more information, just like sort of what we have now, right? That would be really nice. But Croncy, go ahead.
yeah.
What's your favorite, and what's your least favorite?
I'm a massive fan of how varied the experience is going to be day to day now. So it's nowhere near going. It's not going to be anywhere near as repetitive as the gameplay loop is pre 319. So
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. I'm going to be cracking different size rocks. I'm going to have different modules on all the time. That just brings so much more fun to what is already the thing that I enjoy most about the game.
Yeah.
The one thing that I would really want CIG to do though is we've been talking about like how there's all this information coming through for this patch. There's so many variables that matter now in determining, cracking rocks and whatnot. I would just love if just for quality of life and for new players especially, if when you were cracking a rock that had, I don't even know if this rock is theoretically possible, but tungsten, corundum, and agricium, right? That next to tungsten, it just said, you're getting extra mass. Next to, doesn't even have to tell me how much, but it's like, you're getting extra mass from this. Next to the corundum, you're getting a negative to your resistance. Just let me know what those are doing in general, especially because they added a mineral. They added and removed a mineral. Diamond currently doesn't exist, but they did say it was temporary. So we now have, 12 to 16 different minerals, all doing different things to the rock at different quantities. Just knowing what they are doing at just knowing what they are doing at any amount without having to look at a chart would be fantastic. So that's what I'd love.
How do you feel about that, Red? Not having to look at a chart? This is messing with your bottom line over here.
Come on, man. Like, don't you know what the business is here? But no, I think having details like I can see what those parameters for each mineral are because I'm going through and exporting the game files. Yeah. I'm looking through the actual tables for each one that's defining that mineral. Having somewhere those could be easily looked up in game, that would be great, providing a lot more visibility because like I said, that element cluster factor is big. We talk about there's explosion multipliers. If you're going out for laranite or terranite, those are like highly explosive, right?
Okay.
So you can watch out for those. But like nobody knows what that's doing, right? With the element instabilities and like resistances, like that would also be huge. But yeah, the one key factor for me that's not in here is the rock density. That factor of what mass on the ground turns into SCU in your hold. And,
that's a big difference from previous patches, right? It was just multiply by 2 pretty much, and that was the SCU that you were getting, if I remember correctly. And it was very clear, like, all right, I know that I should take this purple and this purple and this purple, and I will fill my prospector, right? Now, I mean, I'm just scooping everything. I right now I'm not thinking much, but it seems like it would be very difficult math to do on the fly with all the different minerals we're dealing with. That would be nice to know as well, right? I guess what I'm asking is, would you rather a system that instead of it just saying the mass, it would tell you what the SCU would end up being on it, or would that be maybe a little too much information for you?
I mean, the fact is they know. The game knows what mass that is, right? It's just a matter of how do they bring that into the UI to present that to the players, right? And if there's challenges on the technical side to get that much detail, they already talked about the amount of clutter in the UI. That's one of one of the updates we haven't really talked about in this patch is there is the new UI. You can see the individual saddlebags as they're being filled up.
That's what those bars are.
Yeah.
Oh
they
my
don't,
God!
They don't work
I just
all the time at the moment. They're a bit buggy. Sometimes it'll display every saddlebag being filled up to fill.
Sure.
Other times it'll go saddlebag by saddlebag. But that's what it is.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So you've got the 8 different blocks, and that's I think they talk about the UI change. I think there's some good factors. There's some other areas. The other thing is going to be if you've got 110,000 mass rock and it's mostly tungsten and that turns out to be just a really dense material, it's going to be difficult to bring all that back and say, hey, like, what's the exact SCU if I have 60% tungsten and 20% laranite and maybe 5% gold and then inert, right?
Yeah.
That each one you're going to have to kind of reverse engineer that, which it's going to be difficult. I think until you get the actual SCU in the hole, that's going to be difficult.
Well, let me ask this. I think that was a very important stat to know until now. Would you agree with that? When you're able to take the saddlebags off, when you're able to swap things, that becomes way less important, right? So it matters, but does it matter? That seems like a very detailed stat to have, and would be hard to make legible for me.
So well, that's why what I would do, and I feel like isn't necessarily out of the realm of possibility because we have similar things like it, is just if we had, when we scan a rock and we have our readout of our minerals, if we had next to tungsten just a symbol that meant dense, and then we had next to, I don't know, what's something light, like beryl you said was like 200 for like 6 SEU or something.
Yeah,
you have that, and it says like low density. That's all I would need to be able to make informed decisions on the fly that would feel interesting without giving me, here is your math by math readout of exact numbers and everything. So,
yeah.
Okay.
I think the mass, it was absolutely a factor that mattered, because if I'm out prospecting or surveying for a group, that mass is going to tell me, okay, this has 31 SCU Quantanium. Like, it's a prospector. We could fill that. I need that, right? If this has 55, okay, we're in multi territory. Yep. If it's only got 10, I'm going to say, you know what? This is a filler rock. If I can't get full on something else, like, we can come back, have somebody break this, have it ready to go. But say we don't necessarily want to commit a vehicle just to that.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be, as we learn more, get more of the in-game data, talk about the density, confirming some of that information and then driving it into the decisions about what to bring. I do think it's the cool thing we're testing out right now, but I think we're kind of in the future. I think we're overstating the importance of removing the saddlebags right now, and I know that's maybe a little controversial, but the fact is we have the ability to do it. I think it's going to be something that we will do on occasion, but it's not going to be a mainstay of a mining operation.
Interesting.
That you're going to be better served to have like a dedicated mole with extraction lasers that's got inert filtering on every laser turret, and that mole comes up and does a cleanout crew if you're doing a large group operation.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the only time when removing the saddlebags and having them transported, putting new saddlebags on, is going to make sense, is in a large group operation. And I see that the options are donor saddlebags from a mole anyways, versus having that mole with the extraction lasers and less logistics in between, saying,
sure,
this entire thing is geared towards pulling extracted material and taking off with it.
Do you mind if I jump in? Because it sounds like you're referencing 319.
Yeah.
Okay, not the future. Because obviously with possible ship-based refineries, obviously we're taking bags off and a lot more and things like that, right? But for 319, I think you're on it 100%.
When the expanse comes in, it's going to make a lot more sense to do that removal. And obviously we need a way, the mole's got those other saddlebags in a condensed form above. We need ways to be able to get those, have them expand into place. But yeah, for 319, at least now, while we don't have in situ refinery options, do you think okay? The Prospector, when it was originally sold, had a lot of different ideas about it than what we currently have. Are you guys aware that you could put the mole bags on your Prospector and you get 48 SU on your Prospector now? So I don't think that's intended, obviously, but I'm getting the impression that the coming down saddlebag is not going to happen. And if it's just a matter of the ship model and not being able to make it work, that's fine.
Sure.
What I think we need to see is we need to see the ability to expand. Like I mentioned earlier, a dense pack saddlebag that's vacuum bag,
sure,
or whatever. We can take it out through a crafting system, convert that into a full saddlebag that spits out the back.
Yeah.
Then use that to attach in.
Yeah, but there's not going to be multiples attached to that spot, as it was I think both ships were originally sold to be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
Like you remove a bag and another one just replaces it. The only difference
Yeah.
is we physically are going to replace it with a tractor beam, I think. I
Yeah.
think it just feels that way. It's just the vibes that I'm getting
But
now. And that's whatever.
yeah, with the
As you make it, things change. It's no big deal.
yeah, with the
Try-
tractor beam system that's being tested right now, I mean that seems like a really easy solution.
Sure.
And I don't know if they need a second way to remove and attach saddlebags.
Yeah. I'm fine with it. I just want to be able to craft them the same way or buy them either way. I'm dying for I love mining. Mining is my favorite, but I'm dying for everything else that's around it. Like include the end of my stream yesterday was wild. I get a call from a well-known pirate, Hannah 888, saying that she had killed another prospector and had some bags. Did I want them? Because she couldn't. She had a mantis, so she couldn't take them. And she was like, "Do I want them?" And I was like, "Okay." And then Moist Noodle I was playing with, he was like, "Don't trust her. There's no. She's gonna get you." It's bait. And then he quantums in. She gets interdicted by her. She said she was going to turn it off. I trusted her. We're friends. And Noodle goes there and shoots her engines off, so she can't do anything. And it was a wild moment. And then she goes into his chat later and admits that she wasn't going to get me once she got the bags, but she was totally going to go for me before then. So it was funny. So I think that is going to get crazy. Miners are going to need to learn how to avoid situations like this. Double jumping, all sorts of things. One good thing is certain refineries for certain materials. There's not going to be one place for you to go like there kind of was before. You weren't always going to. I would assume everyone was going to Arc L1. I know I was. You were going somewhere else.
Yeah, I was always going Kuro 1, but that's because I'm a glutton for punishment. It had the best quant bonus, but yeah, you can make it, and it had the best quant bonus. But I think the math didn't actually work out for it. I think it was still worth it to go to Arca 1.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking 3 or 4% for a much longer travel time. And the fact is, I'm guilty of racing that timer and losing more than my fair share. So
big change. The timer is significantly longer.
It is
significantly longer. Yeah.
I have a coffee and Quantanium mug with 15 minutes printed on it. I think I need
new merch. New merch. Yeah, new merch coming out. Yeah, it's changed. I don't know what it is yet, but we went from Crusader to Mike L1 and it never turned yellow in a stock null.
Is that an intended feature that the Quantanium timer has extended, or is that a PTU? It's not functioning properly, right?
Previously I told them to go to RCorp L1, and I actually meant Microtech L1, and we stopped midway and went all the way back, and it turned yellow. I think it's intended. It turned yellow. Okay. It worked.
Yeah. It's either intended. If it was delayed, it was also the orange that was delayed because it was also in yellow for like a long 7 minutes. Like it was. Yeah, it was.
We never hit orange. Yeah. I never saw orange.
Yeah, so it's likely intended, but we're not 100% obviously.
Isn't that one of the stats that should be showing up in the mining interface?
It does.
It was not.
It is. No, it does. Apparently,
the numbers
it does.
Showed up.
Yes, it's super hard to see, and that's probably some good feedback to give them. Under Quantanium in your cargo, it just pops down a little bit, and you could see. And obviously, we know this, guys. I mean, this UI with the see through. I can't anymore. It's I couldn't see it. It was light red. It was difficult to see, but apparently it was there. I was like, that's not good. That's something they definitely missed, but they didn't. It's there, but you gotta get a magnifying glass to see it, unfortunately.
If you've got something that's volatile material, stick that up middle of the head bar right here. Warning, X number of minutes, right?
Exactly. Like if there's you see it when you unlock your ship, it should be in the exact same spot, I think.
No.
Yeah. At least when you hit yellow, right?
Yeah.
So
going off a thing you were saying with that encounter that you had with Hannah, there's there's when Tony Z did his massive talk, the 40-minute one from now 2 years ago, I think.
Maybe longer.
They were talking about.
I think
it was definitely
2020.
No, I think it was 2 years ago because I was definitely really into the game at the time. But regardless, they were talking about dynamic events. So it was
nice.
I think it was just after Xenothreat had come out. They were talking about the future of events. They were talking a little bit about Jumptown. And the example they used was Gold Rush.
Yeah.
And he was talking about Gold Rush and being like, well, maybe there's just a bunch of gold that like spawns here or whatever. With 319, we have all of the mechanics you would need to do Jumptown mining.
Yeah.
Because we can steal saddlebags and put them on our own and then go refine those. And then well, that's all we really need, actually. But we could do that now. So I really hope we do finally get something a bit more for the industrialists with all these dynamic events.
Well, how much have you guys spent? I mean, we've talked a lot about mining, but you can kind of get a gauge on what it might be like in 320 with the mining missions, because they're basically going to do port over what we have for salvage to mining. Have you done that 150k buy-in salvage mission yet? That is like a miniature version of what could be. I want what you're saying. I want big Jumptown dynamic event. There is you will have 5 frames a second. There are so many rocks here with icons everywhere, kind of a thing,
As someone who's peered behind the curtain a little bit, there are, talking about locations where minerals are distributed, there are asteroid clusters with low yield and asteroid clusters with medium yield in the source files that are talking about a different distribution of materials. I think those are going to be either our mining missions or mining claims that are enforced like those salvage claims, or potentially some of those dynamic events that pop up that might be, a source for piracy. You go out and all of a sudden, instead of being at something that's designated as a Lagrange point, like you're there at a medium or a low yield asteroid cluster. So I haven't seen where they pop up now. I'm excited to see what happens with them because I do think that's feeding into the mining missions. Similar to this, salvage. I've not had a chance to go out and try one of these salvage ones. I've been too excited, like with everything going on with mining, but that is absolutely on my list to go out and check because
they're insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
What they did between 318 PTU and 318 Live for the salvageable materials that you can just find randomly. In PTU, they were everywhere, right? And it was really easy to find salvageable wrecks at any Lagrange point, but then we go into Live and it's a ghost town, right? But the best thing I've seen to find, with salvage is you're committing insurance fraud by taking your own ships out and salvaging them and filing insurance claims to get a refill, or you're following up behind a bounty hunter crew to say, I'm going to clean up your mess. Now, these claims are going to be awesome, and I think that's exactly what they need to do for mining. Yeah. Similar buy-ins, right?
Yeah. I wonder if they'll give us like an idea. It would be really great if you kind of knew what you were mining. So you come prepared, and then you don't have to deal with that as much, and you focus on protection and being as fast as possible and things like that. I think that would be really cool. Yeah. We got into so many other fun parts of the conversation. I'm glad I asked that question because we just dove so much deeper. I never really got to say what my favorite and what my least favorite would be. I think my favorite was... My favorite is my least favorite as well. I think it's the idea that you could take the modules out and put them on and take them off, and every rock is different, so you need to want to do that. And then my current least favorite is the way that we do it right now, and I'm really excited again on Star Citizen Live. That was like the question that I just had to hear, and they're gonna allow us to pull, hopefully within the 319 PTU cycle, to pull out the modules, and then that will make life so much easier. A box full of modules in a ship will be amazing. And the only other feedback I would say is like, can I please read the UI like one time in this game? Like even in the new player experience, it's like I can't read anything. Like this is not it's not good. Hollow stuff, like it looks cool, but chill, man.
You've never been mining on Lyria in the daytime?
Yes. Right? Yeah, of course. I mean, that's all I did, right? And it was brutal. So You're you're putting yourself in a certain way just to be able to see the green part of the UI a little bit.
Yeah, I was always mining on the dark side of Lyria. Like, if people were surveying on the light side, I'd yell at them, just be like, "Hey, like, we're not gonna be able to see anything there."
Oh, see,
Right?
I always went light because I guess I was always afraid of somebody finding me. So I always went light because not Jumptown, Vandal Mask event. I'll never forget. I'm running around, I'm trying to kill everybody possible, and I look down on a moon and I see a light. And I'm 50K away and I see this guy rock mining, and I was like, Vandal Mask, here we come. And I just took the guy out. He was so upset, but it was like he couldn't understand how I found him. He was just spamming in the chat, and I was like, I never mine on the light side. That's so funny that you only go dark because it makes it easier for the UI.
Yeah, I would say I'd take that trade-off of a UI that I can read, which is going to be 100% of the time versus the occasional rare instance where I'm going to have somebody. And like, granted, we're pretty much always mining in a group. I've got security teams that we're paying out from overload. Like, they're the ones keeping us safe and preventing that type of thing. But
yeah, I respect that, man. That is so hard to do for me right now. Is to justify somebody protecting right now. The moment it's like org mechanics are in, it all will make sense in the future for me. At the moment you have org mechanics and you're working towards whatever goal might be for an org, I'm still not sure what that might look like in Star Citizen. But the moment you're mining and refining and salvaging and whatever we would be doing, it'll be so cool for me to have protection. I have a lot of respect for people that are willing to just hang out and do that. Does your protection look for rocks while they're doing it usually?
So our group setup. Yeah, so our group setup, we have anybody, like, if you find a cluster or a grouping of rocks that a miner comes and picks up, you'll get a 15% cut of whatever we put into the refinery. And so we've got spreadsheets to calculate that.
Wow.
So 15% is going to go to the finder that finds that rock. Then we pay out 10% to the security team from every order. We've usually got multiple people pulling into the refinery, so it makes it pretty profitable. Like 1.5 to 2 million is about how much I'll make in a session, and so that security team is getting 200,000 from me, right? Then we've got so 15% survey, 10% for security, and the ship owner gets 20%, but the rest is like split between the whole crew.
Cool.
That's but yeah, they're out there. They're running the route between the point we're at and our refinery station, just checking for snares. They're circling around doing orbital marker checks. They're also giving call-outs to miners. Like, people have the bad habit of mining near quantum travel points of interest.
Yep.
So giving call-outs, and then if somebody has to mine there because there's a really great rock, they just go fly close support, and they'll be within a kilometer or so.
Hell yeah.
Occasionally, if they get really bored, I'll have somebody position their, I don't request this, it just happens, but they'll position their ship to cast a shadow on the rock if we're on the light side. Just
nice.
Create that contrast. So
yeah, it's always cool to hear how everybody does their group stuff, because everyone does it slightly differently. I guess, yeah. How are you planning on doing it, Croncy, if you do it, and how have you done it in the past?
Yeah, so to much to my chat's dismay all the time, I pay a flat fee. I play a flat fee, doesn't matter percentage, whatever, of it changes patch to patch depending on how profitable mining is at the time, for people working lasers, for people working security, that sort of thing. Obviously now with 319, I'm more likely to do the larger mining operations, so I'll probably be paying a lot more. But I also, and I'm still adamant and will hold to this forever, the pilot, so the owner of the ship gets the bigger cut. I don't care what you say, the owner of the ship gets the bigger cut, and they should, because they bought the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it was in-game credits or not, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
My factoring in is the ship owner gets 20% off the top, along with the security and stuff, and then whatever's left is then split between the crew. But yeah, Croncy, if you're gonna do group ops, you really got to pay your crew better.
Yeah.
It's fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry. I haven't lost anything yet.
He's forbidden me from talking about how much I pay over on his channel.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
gonna
right.
swallow people.
Yeah, don't spoil them. They'll abandon me.
I can't wait for the day that it's not about money.
No.
I can't wait for the day that it's about we're going to get this item or this commodity and we're going to turn it into something else and we're going to use it. That's my dream. That's the dream, man. We got to do money for now. But the dream, I mean, I'm assuming you guys are kind of all on the same page. Like that's the MMO thing. I mean, the other MMOs, there was always like a tax that, anything you did, your guild would get a tax, or I don't know what some other games did, but that's how, all the games I played were like that. And this is such a weird system. We have to make everything up. Like, man, you love spreadsheets, but I don't. And like, then how do I deal with that as far as a group? It's so much more difficult, right? And now with all these extra layers, it's going to get even crazier.
Yeah. Well, and they talk about these core elements, those 7 that are on the bottom tier for price.
Mm-hmm.
Those are going to be the absolute, like, you're talking about aluminum, titanium, iron, copper, right? Those are the materials you're going to need if you're going to go out using that awesome Rastar system and your Pioneer to build your base. You're going to need to feed those materials in, right? And I think absolutely it makes sense that, that is the goal, right? Working, when the Orion comes out, I'm going to be out there busting the largest rocks I can. We're going to be feeding that into a Pioneer that's building our refinery operation, right? And we're going to try and fine tune that. I absolutely want a ground-based refinery or even a space station refinery, something static that we can deliver our own stuff to, fine-tune it to our parameters.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Well,
now that we're pie in the sky, go for yours, Croncy, too.
Yeah, well, it does seem like we are actually a step towards that, like, not just after money, actually after resources.
Yep.
On the roadmap roundup this week, they added in into 320 along with the Hull C. We've got what is essentially delivery contracts.
Yep.
At least that's what it's certainly what it reads like. And there's no reason that those delivery contracts can't be for 200 SCU of titanium. All right, sweet. I'm going to go mine it.
Yeah,
that's how I'm going to grab it. I'm not going to go buy it from somewhere else. So that's your incentive to do that, right? So, that in addition
would
to
be amazing.
we've in addition to the we've already had delivery contracts with Ninetales Lockdown, right? With medical. So it's really just about, all right, cool. So we can do that. Awesome. So let's see that a bit more, and then also give us that little midpoint where it's, well, you want electrical components, so I'm going to go get copper, gold, whatever else is in electrical components, silicon, whatever, make them and then deliver them.
Yep. That's where I want to be that middle part more than anything, I think.
Yeah.
I definitely will probably do definitely probably doesn't make any sense, but I will do a lot of mining. But for me, it's, I think, what if we have those, and they've definitely teased some levels of these refineries, right? If we have something like that, I think my ass will be planted there, just clicking buttons all day on a UI, and I'll be so happy. And that's what is so special about this patch, is this is 100% like the setup for that stuff. Who knows? Like, listen, I've been around Star Citizen as long as most people have, and who knows when that will happen, but you can see the intentions, and the intentions here aren't to just sell spaceships. It's to play the game, and in so many ways, that's so exciting. And I like that they're keeping some things out, and you're gonna have to figure them out yourselves, and all that stuff. It's exciting. I'm so happy. But yeah, I don't know. We've been going for a little while. I feel like I can go forever, but I don't want to keep you guys forever. So, give me like your final thoughts on everything. We'll start with you, Croncy. Send it off for our initial thoughts on mining, and maybe we'll come back in a couple months, and like leading up, maybe when we're in like the PTU for like mining contracts or something, we can come back to that and talk about how it's been all this time, right? And what we thought and what it ended up being. But what are your final thoughts on this?
Yeah, like, look, it's the actual mining gameplay loop feels fleshed out now.
Yeah.
It feels really fleshed out. I feel like there's a lot of layers, there's a lot of levels of complexity. We've got multi-crew, we've got solo, and they feel solid.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing for me, is I can do an entire gameplay loop and feel like I've achieved something. So it's 3.19 is going to be the best patch in 2 years. That's what I've been saying the last couple days.
Yeah.
For us, don't say that. PvPers are not happy.
I would say pirates are probably also equally happy about it.
True.
Yeah. For me, the fact that up to this point there's been one clear meta with Quantanium mining, and people are saying, "Hey, what do I do to make money?" And I say, "Quantanium mine on Lyria." Right. That's going away, and I feel like that throws a lot of weight into the fact that we're going to have a much more immersive system.
Yeah.
That we have diversity in our choices that we can make, and honestly, yes, we need to forget everything we've learned about mining, except for laser power control, right? Some of the stats, but the distributions, what equipment to use is optimal. Like, those are all changing, but I think it's changing for the better, and I think it's providing a huge amount of diversity in the ways that people can mine and still earn tons of credits, right? That's the main thing. Is there was one meta and everything else sucked. We have 4 or 5 things we could specifically look for, but realistically, as long as you know your material price list, you're going to do well. You're going to do consistently. There's not going to be that diversity of a bunch of options that suck and one great option. You're going to have a good scale.
Yeah, 100%. I'll keep going back to I'm not scanning and I'm mining, and for the first time in Star Citizen, even though we got plenty of bugs in the system still, I just don't feel like I'm playing a pre-alpha, all the things that, like, this is the first piece of, like, what feels like a somewhat polished Star Citizen. And it not only is the thing that I was excited to play with Star Citizen and the thing that I had always enjoyed the most when I played, even though the last year or so I haven't touched mining once because I was just waiting for this. I knew this was coming and I was just waiting for it. And I just feel like I'm playing a video game for the first time with this game, and it's really exciting for me. And yeah, I can't wait for the future. And that's really all I have on it. And I don't know. I'm really excited. I employ you two now to please let everyone know where they can find you, your schedules. Do you have any giveaways, any things coming up? Because when it comes to mining, I think I'm very vocal about how much I like mining, but I am not the one to watch as far as learning and information and all. These two guys, in my opinion, I know I'm sure I'm missing somebody. Again, I said this earlier. If I don't know, I'm sorry, but these are the guys that I've interacted with, and these are the guys that I'm familiar with. As far as if you want to learn about mining, you go to these guys. So again, Croncy, we'll start with you. Where can people find you? Around what time do you stream at? And YouTube channels, all that stuff. There's been in the Twitch chat constantly. There are links to everywhere. That will be also in the description down below. And yeah, we need to send one of our org mates, Drail. He's terrible, to one of you guys, because we can't help this guy. So yeah, we got to send him to you.
Blow up our ships instead of yours.
Exactly. Exactly. Croncy, go ahead.
Yeah, so you can find me on twitch.tv/Croncy. I actually stream usually around the same time that Mike does. So if his stream gets a little bit stale, gets a bit boring, don't come to me either, because it'll be trash. You can also find me on YouTube. I've been posting a lot more YouTube recently, and on Twitter, twitch.tv/Croncy1. And if you do ever want to join up for a party, 90% of the time I'm playing Star Citizen, I am usually open crew. So feel free to join.
And I'm usually solo, so there you go. Yeah. Red, go ahead.
And yeah, I'm RedMonsterSC. You can find me here on Twitch, RedMonsterSC, on Twitter at the same, and also I occasionally post to Reddit, so mining salt in many places. My stream schedule, I usually go Monday nights or a variety night. I'll go to a variety of space games. Friday nights are big group events with my org, the Red Legion. And then Sunday morning is the Sunday morning mining session, which is an open invite As I mentioned, we have specific payouts. We bring in people for security, survey, and laser operators, and it's open to all skill levels. Sadly, this Sunday I've got some diversions, but I think the Red Legion's doing the mining without me, so it won't be on stream, but you can go out and make some money on live. And also
what
on
time,
YouTube.
What time do you normally stream at? I think you're relatively around this time as well, right?
Sundays I do a morning stream starting at 8 a.m. Mountain Time.
Okay.
And then Monday nights and Friday nights I actually start at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. So kind of that nights and weekends schedule for me.
Cool. So you can get some EU people on Sunday and some NA people, and it's good.
Yep.
It's good to have that schedule. So nice. But yeah, that's where I guess I'll leave it. Thank you guys. Enjoy the next couple weeks of gathering information and learning new things. Croncy, congratulations on your most recent YouTube video. Doing really well.
Thank you.
putting in all that effort and getting all those views. Right?
It's like a 2-hour video.
Welcome
what the hell?
to YouTube.
What is YouTube?
Welcome to YouTube. It's so easy. So easy to figure out. And please, guys, go check these guys out. These are your mining guys. Sure, leave a comment down below. I'm sure there's some other people that are really good at it too. But these are the guys that I definitely let's get back together in a couple months and really see what we think about mining and everything. So I'm really hyped.
Yeah.
And thank you again for coming on, guys. I appreciate it. So yeah.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. So be good. I'll end the call real quick. Bye-bye, guys. And that's it for Answer the Call. For those of you guys out there, I'll do the whole YouTube thing of like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. And again, please check those guys out. I really hope you guys find them, enjoy them, and have a lot of fun over in their channels as well, because they're fantastic. I hope you could tell they seem like great people. To me, they're great people, and they're great content creators as well. So feel free to check them out. And mining, super excited. I don't want to see those Sweetie Mike comments down below. This is what I've been SaltEMike over for the last few years, and it feels like my cries have been heard, and it feels good to be excited again about Star Citizen. So really, really excited for that stuff. So thank you again for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. If you guys want to check out Answer the Call in the future, we normally do it on Sunday. Today's Saturday. We did it. As you heard, Red's got some engagements, and I had to do it with these two guys. Like, there's nobody I would have wanted to talk about mining with than them. And so normally do them on Sundays. Twitch.tv/SaltEMike. Sunday mornings, and discord.gg to get you guys in the call. And yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.